Artificial intelligence today isn't just a buzzword, but it's a tool that operates, empowers, and innovates. And at this evolving landscape of digital transformation, ServiceNow is reshaping how organizations operate, customers engage, and also how employees can be empowered. And what is interesting to note is that India isn't just any market, but a key R&D hub for them as well. Hello and welcome to Executive Circle presented by ServiceNow in partnership with ET BrandEquity. I am Ridhima Bhatnagar and we have a very special guest joining us, Nalina Athyantha, SVP Enterprise Field Marketing at ServiceNow. Nalina, firstly, welcome to India.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking our time and joining us.
No, thank you. It's so nice to be here. I was here almost exactly last year, so I was due for a visit, and it's so nice to be back.
Let me first ask, how's the jet lag treating you?
You know, I've woken up at 3:30 the last two mornings. I'm hoping to make it to 5 tomorrow and really start the day, but it's been productive. I've gone to the gym every morning, which is a nice start.
Lovely, love the energy.
Yeah.
When I opened the segment, I said that there is an evolving landscape of digital transformation, right? Organizations are rethinking of this keyword transformation. Leadership is being taught about how it can be transformed, how customers are engaging, how employees are being empowered. Could you talk to me just for an overview of why this transformation is happening?
Yeah.
What is the need that is being identified? And how is this transformation happening?
Yeah, definitely. So we just did our customer experience report in 2025, and that showed that the customer experience landscape is changing greatly. I think all of us in our personal lives are customers. We know what it's like to have positive customer experiences. Now, with AI and technology, people's loyalty is actually reducing quite a lot because people are going to be chasing the brand that gives them the best experience. And so if they're not getting the empathy, the transparency from the brands that they work with, they're going to switch brands. So now there is this urgency to provide those experiences for your customers so you can retain that loyalty, retain that retention, and that's what everyone is fighting to achieve. And AI is making that really pronounced because now it's a race to create those proactive experiences, those seamless customer experiences that we've all experienced from a few brands, but not everybody is doing it correctly. So at the moment, it's a race to create that brand loyalty that comes from building a really great customer experience.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you. You spoke about the report, so let's try and unpack some of the statistics there and some very fascinating data. Let's begin with a perception gap, essentially, that has been identified between agents as well as customers. So I'm looking at some data. Agents on an average think that a case is being resolved in about 30 minutes and a customer is seeing that close to almost 4 days, about 3.8 days, right?
Yeah.
So first, help me understand what is actually causing this delta, what has been identified so far?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most telling facts that came out of the report because that perception is massive, right? If you are a customer and it's taking 4 days, 3.8 days to solve a problem, that's not good. If you want to solve a problem, you don't want to wait 4 days for it to be solved.
Yeah.
But in the agent's defense, they think it's being solved in 30 minutes because often they have to hand it over to somebody else to take the case because they're operating amongst siloed systems, disparate data, swivel chairing between different systems. And so they may think they're closing the loop on that case, but the reality is it's being lobbed over to somebody else and it becomes someone else's problem. And so that's where AI can really help. We want to bring all those service experiences under a single pane of glass so the agent has the power to solve the case then and there. And that's going to create that speed to value that every customer is looking for. And with ServiceNow, we have a customer, BT, British Telecom, which is a globally known brand, but they did this with us and saw some incredible results. So they had several disparate service agent systems that their agents would have to toggle between to solve a problem, and often that routing would cause a delay in solving the case. Now they are able to put it under a single pane of glass, so the average resolution time for them was 4.5 hours. It's now under 30 minutes. So that's incredible improvement, and that's the power of bringing all your systems together to create those positive experiences for customers.
When you started, you said that if a customer has to wait about 3.5, 4 days or 3.8 days, the biggest worry is that they will switch, right? Because the patience today, we know we live in a social media age. It's obviously running out, and we want the resolution to be faster as well. I go back to some data. If you look at Indians spent an average of about 15 billion hours just trying to get a resolution or lodge this complaint, and that's a massive number that we're looking at, right? So if we're looking at some sort of a meaningful time dividend to give back in 2025, what would that be, Nalina?
Yeah, I mean, 15 billion hours, we have some room to improve, I think. I think no one wants to be on hold that long. So I think when we want to look to impact that statistic, right, and ensure that we don't have customers in India waiting on hold for nearly that much time, there's a few levers that we have when it comes to technology to make that happen. So one is virtual agents. I think many of us are familiar with virtual agents. They're not too new in the world of AI. We've used them in different experiences. Already, many Indian organizations are using AI to be kind of the first port of call for a customer service experience. What we want to do is improve the conversational language of that agent, make it feel really real and human for the customer so they have a positive experience. The next is smart escalation. So how do you make sure that when the case is too complex for the virtual agent, it's getting routed to the right person to serve the customer at the right time. So we want to make sure that that routing is happening quickly so that customer doesn't get frustrated. And then finally, it's about transparency. I think customers know that it's going to take a little bit of time to solve a problem. They're not always expecting immediate results, but they want to know where they are in the process. So how do we ensure that a customer has transparency as to how that problem is getting solved and how far along they are in the process? Because transparency helps reduce frustration. If you know where you're at, you're not going to wonder when the problem is going to be solved, and that also helps build a little bit of ease for the customer to have that engagement.
Yeah, you know what is fascinating to unpack in this report is to understand both perspectives of agents as well as customers, right? If I go back to the perspective of agents, and I'm looking at some other data as well, they spend just an average about 16% just getting the work done because they're actually hopping across systems, I think about 3.4 systems. But the bigger problem is not this. The bigger problem is how many organizations actually have these integrated systems to actually streamline this process. Is that a real challenge that you see, and how is that being tackled going forward?
Yeah, that is a huge challenge. I think that's probably the number one challenge in creating positive customer experiences, and that comes from, to the point you said, 16% of an agent's time is spent solving problems. And in theory, that should be 100% of their job. But other percentage of their time is spent toggling between systems, trying to access disparate data, and doing the legwork to try and solve the problem, but they're not actually resolving them. So at ServiceNow, we have what's called an AI control tower. And the AI control tower you can think of as a single pane of glass to connect your entire enterprise, but also the entire customer journey. So you're bringing together finance, IT, HR, CRM, and you're seeing the full end-to-end journey and what's happening, because sometimes these AI solutions actually shouldn't be created in a silo of one department. You need to look at your entire enterprise to see where you can connect these systems and how you can create AI experiences that span across multiple functions in your organization. And that becomes a really valuable unlock to actually be able to see that from the top. Lenovo is one of our customers. They've done this to bring together disparate data systems. So you think of Microsoft Dynamics, Genesys, all of these systems that carry this data. They're able to bring it under a single pane of glass with our AI control tower and create these consumer experiences because they're able to see the full end-to-end customer journey. And what I think is really important with what Lenovo was doing is they found a use case that caused a lot of friction in their organization. I think AI can sound really overwhelming as a solve for many organizations. A lot of people don't know where to start. Customer service was where they wanted to start. So they found a use case, they saw the friction, they knew the problem they wanted to solve, and they brought it all together. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons in this is everyone needs to start somewhere. So using a use case like customer service is a great place to start because you're not only creating better customer experiences and loyalty, but you're also making the agent experience more productive, and that drives retention in your own brand. So it's a win-win, but I think the start of creating that value is giving people the visibility to see the organization completely from a bird's eye view.
Oh, absolutely. Nalina, the other aspect that I in fact want to discuss is something that we started with, which is we were speaking about 3.8 days as a waiting time. So
Yeah.
if you look at another statistic, it says close to almost 90%, about 89% Indian customers have said that they will switch over
Yeah.
if there is slow resolution or lack of resolution, which you might say is fair because they have the option today, right?
Yeah.
So I want to understand, one, how is that being tackled? Also, where are you seeing artificial intelligence make the biggest dent in terms of churn and other allied aspects as well?
Yeah, I think churn is a real silent killer for organizations because while many of us are chasing revenue, incoming revenue is only as good as the revenue you're retaining from your existing customers, right?
Absolutely.
So you can't have, a leaky bucket, if you will, and be trying to fill the water, but all of it is leaking. So I think that churn is something that customers are really finding they need to address head on. So a lot of this comes from proactive service. This is the good news about AI and being able to handle these things proactively. You can actually do this without a customer even knowing. So the proactive service, sentiment analysis, these systems and tools that are popping up today allow an organization to spot frustrations in their customer, to spot product outages, to spot issues that their customers may be having, often before the customer even knows. And the best organizations are acting upon that data and doing that proactively so they can actually create that meaningful experience for a customer. So if you think about an issue you may have, how much better is it if a customer tells you, we spotted this issue for you and we actually fixed it before you even knew. The issue that we were talking about earlier is when the customer is the one who has to flag the issue, wait on hold, wait days for it to be solved. So I think the pivot in driving loyalty will be actually a friction-free experience where the customer doesn't even have to engage with the organization. The organization is dealing with those problems head on. They're solving them and making the experience completely seamless for the customer. And that's where AI will really unlock a new level of customer experience and customer satisfaction.
Just hypothetically and being ambitious from what you just said, just pivoting a little to understand when you said that this will be the ideal scenario when organizations can pick it even before the customer flags it. In this evolving landscape, how many years do you see that actually taking shape?
Oh, it's happening. I think there's organizations that are doing this today very well. We've seen that Pure Storage is one of our customers. They're handling 76% of their cases proactively. So that is a massive number, right? The goal is to get to 100, but maybe we'll never get to 100. Maybe some of it will always be reactive, but it's not the future. It's here, and I think it's all about how customers embrace that. And I think the challenge customers will have is to keep up with the pace of change of all the organizations that other customers are working with, because the baseline for service is created by the person who does it best. So if you have an incredible experience with an airline, you're going to expect that same level of customer service with any business you work with, whether it's a retailer or a CPG company. So it's really important that people are keeping up with the pace of change for customer experiences, not just within their industry, but in any brand but a customer experiences, because a new age customer experience will set the bar for what customers hope to have for every company.
Absolutely. Nalina, when we speak about artificial intelligence in any sector today, one sentiment that is echoed usually is that it is growing at a very fast pace, and almost every day you're learning something new. With the technology that is so rapidly growing and the nuances are still being read, the line becomes very, very, sometimes it almost diminishes, right? When you step over and forget about the governance and guardrails and audits, etc., right? And we have a very fascinating data that essentially substantiates exactly this. It says about 17% of customers and agents have accepted the fact that at different times they would have used unapproved AI tools, right? So at a time when you're looking at productivity gains, but you're also looking at audits and governance, how do you strike that balance then?
Yeah, I think this is a contentious one because you can't talk about AI without talking about governance and compliance.
Absolutely,
and that's the only scary part about AI is often it's coming into your organization from different means. Users are using different tools. We all probably as consumers, I have 3 or 4 different AI apps on my phone that I toggle between. But at the same time, you don't want to squash innovation. And a lot of the best AI use cases are actually coming from the ground floor. People are solving problems that they have every day using AI. And that's a really hard thing to discover from a top down. In certain leadership roles, you don't know the problems that your employees are facing every day. And the most creative employees are solving those problems using AI. So while you want to ensure governance is appreciated, you also don't want to squash innovation. And so there's a few ways that you can do this. One is to always be on the forefront of the right AI tools, right? If people have the tools they need to be successful, they're not going to be looking for other routes to make their job easier. So the best thing you can do is be on the bleeding edge of the AI technology that your teams actually need and they can use. In the absence of that, you'll always find new AI use cases in your organization for your team members to use. And you want to educate them on how they can bring those use cases to the top and get them approved by the organization. So it's a combination of upskilling, but it's also removing the red tape and making it really clear. So rather than it being a really cumbersome process for an employee to flag an AI use case, make it easy. Allow it to be a seamless process for an employee to show you how they can use AI in an innovative way, because maybe that will save time for hundreds of your employees across the organization. So it's not about completely eliminating the creativity of finding new ways that AI can be used. It's actually about letting that happen, but doing it in a way that you can quickly route it to drive governance in your organization, because it is important that you have the safest data, that you're adhering to compliance rules within your industry, but you also want to allow those use cases to come organically from your organization.
Very well put. I completely agree with that. But now I want to get to some sort of an elephant in the room. The conversation that always comes with AI is AI replacing humans? And in allied sectors where we're talking about customer engagement and employee empowerment as well, the biggest question is, can AI give me human-like responses? And if you put yourself in the place of a customer, while we love the speedy responses, that it's available 24/7, there is always that one question that, can the responses be more human-like? So how do you pivot around this continuous question and curiosity of the customers as well?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question. And nobody wants to feel like we're speaking to a robot,
exactly,
right? At the end of the day, while AI is really efficient, it solves problems fast, sometimes it can be a little soulless, and you don't want that. And I think there's been so much advancement in natural language and AI technologies, so we're seeing a lot less of that. So I think on the forefront, you want to make sure that you're creating as much natural language engagement in your solution as possible. So for the example of customer experience, if that first port of call for a customer to get serviced is through a virtual agent, make sure it has natural language, make sure it feels conversational. It's okay if they know it's an AI. They don't need to pretend it's a customer, an agent. I think that's another mistake people make, is trying to hide the fact that you're using agents. Agents are here, AI is here, it's about how you're using it wisely. So have natural language in the agent experience, but that smart escalation becomes a really critical part of it. Humans will always be required in the workforce. At ServiceNow, we say we put AI to work for people, which means we want AI to be a partner to the people in your organization to deal with the cumbersome tasks and the time-consuming, high-volume tasks, so they can focus on the work that, one, brings them joy, and two, is the most critical to the company. And so we have the ability to do this. So with smart escalation, you know that if a consumer is engaging with your agent, the sentiment analysis, the ability to quickly escalate when things are going sideways to a human is really critical, because people are okay interacting with agents until it traps them in a loop of not getting their problems solved. So as long as you're routing it to a human when and where it makes sense, it becomes really valuable. And second is to remember that agents are not just for your consumer's experience and your customer's experience, they're for your employees' experience. So think about how much nicer the role and job is for an agent to actually mitigate a lot of those turnkey requests that come in, the thousands of problems that are easy to solve with a virtual agent, and allow them to work on meatier problems that are really driving strategy and business value. And we're talking about customer service today, but that is true of every department. What we want to do is mitigate high volume tasks so our employees and our customers have better experiences.
Absolutely. I think my biggest takeaway is the word transparency then, right? If you're using agents, you let them know so that the experience for the customer and the agents involved is more streamlined.
Definitely.
Nalina, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for taking out the time and also helping us understand where we're headed from here on.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there's such an incredible opportunity to adopt AI in India. I think AI adoption is some of the highest in the globe here in India. So there's an unfair advantage here to harness it to do good. And I look to India to create those customer experiences of the future. I think the whole world is looking to India to create some of those customer experiences that we haven't even seen yet. So ServiceNow is super excited to partner with many brands in India to make AI transformation a reality. And we're super excited for what's to come.
Absolutely, because every opportunity shows you the potential that a country like India has. What a fascinating conversation it really has been. This is a wrap on Executive Circle presented by ServiceNow in partnership with ET BrandEquity. Thanks a lot for watching.